So basically, the purpose of tonight was very, very informal. I had intended to have another event. Time sort of got away from me, and I thought, well, why don't we just have a quick check-in with everybody, see how you're going, see if you have any questions, see if you have any needs, both as mentees and mentors. And so I just threw this out there, and I've been amazed at how many people have jumped in to be a part of tonight's event. Now, there's a couple of different ways we can do it, and I'm completely open to people's viewpoints. We can have a little bit of a Q&A about a couple of things to do with mentoring and share it as a group discussion, or we can break out into separate rooms. Heidi, welcome. I love to see the white shirt you're wearing. I thought for a moment it was a karate outfit and that you were in a dojo. I know. That's a different look for you. So everybody's piling in. So look, why don't I just start with, certainly anybody who has questions, feel free to just drop them into the chat or to raise your hand and we can ask them. But I guess the one that I've been asked a few times this year from mentees is, what should I be talking with my mentor about? So if I could just start at that point, and then of course we can do this however people want to do it. The short answer to that question is, there's no right and there's no wrong answer. As a general rule of thumb, what I find that the most of the reports I get is that mentees and mentors start with each other by talking about the mentor's career, what they've done, what they've learned along the way. Then that generally starts to throw off some interesting discussions of, okay, those are some interesting things that you've learned. How do I apply those lessons to my own life? And then questions start to evolve naturally from there. That's in the early phases. Towards the later phases of getting into, as the mentee gets closer to graduation, it naturally then starts moving on to the mentee's job search, the applications they're submitting, maybe reviewing applications, preparing for job interviews by examining the company, examining the maybe having conversations with people who might know people at that company. So it becomes quite job focused, and in between, the key aspect is network, network, network. The more you build your network, the more you'll gain from it. Okay, those are the sort of the primary items that I would suggest. But we've got a lot of mentees here, so does anybody have any questions? Anyone want to raise your hand or just want to start speaking? Okay, well, since nobody's jumping in, there's a few new faces, so I'm just going to check in with some people who I don't know. Gabby, I'm going to pick on you because you and I don't think we've ever spoken, have we, Gabby?
No, that's correct. We haven't.
Okay, so nice to meet you, Gabby, for the first time. How's it going for you?
Really well. So just to give a bit of context, I've finished up my PhD of August last year. Unfortunately, the comments took a bit longer, so I'm still waiting to get those back. So I thought this was a great opportunity to jump into this program and kind of figure out my direction great time to start looking into how I would approach careers. And I'm also one of the CTAC members. So for anyone who doesn't know, that's the Society of Ecotoxicology and Chemistry. So I look at how contaminants behave in the environment and how we can use that information to develop guidelines that protect human and environmental health. So I've had a really good mentor. I actually knew them already and they're kind of part of my broader network, but they're really well placed in the work that they do. They've worked in government and academia and have a lot of connection with industry. So I felt really lucky in who I got.
Okay, excellent. Are you meeting with your mentor regularly?
Yes, we are. To start with, it was kind of once a fortnight, but now it's kind of pushed back to once a month. And then depending on job applications that come up and so on, we'll meet.
Excellent.
Regularly.
Excellent. Now, remember that in addition to your mentor, we're always here to help you, particularly with your job search, right? You know, there's a lot of stuff that we can do to help with that stuff. So never hesitate to reach out to us.
Thank you.
And that goes to everybody, of course. Now, in terms of the frequency of meeting with your mentors, we all understand, we all get busy. Individually, we've spoken to Justin a moment ago, who is extremely busy with his PhD, and certainly, even when you're an undergrad, you can still feel like you're awfully busy, even though we know you're not. Sorry, I shouldn't make jokes. Guys don't all know me well enough for me to make jokes. The point is, we understand, right? The aim is to get together once a month, but sometimes that's not practical. The one thing I do want to say about it, though, is that I often hear from mentees, my mentor is extremely busy. I'm worried about bothering them. And that's the word I keep hearing again and again, bothering them. Now, it's really important to understand, our mentors volunteer for this program because they want to help. One of the factors that makes them very good as mentors is that most of them are quite prominent in their fields or noted in their fields and or quite busy in what they do. But the great thing about being a busy person is you'll always make time for what's important. So never, ever be shy as a mentee about reaching out to your mentor and reminding them, it's been another month, it's time for us to get together again, okay? And even if your mentor is too busy to get together, which does happen from time to time, you can always say to them, well, look, if you don't have time to mentor for a mentoring meeting this month, is there any chance you could introduce me to someone and I can have a chat with them this month, right? Someone, to help me build my network, and I can have a bit of a chat with them this month. So, you can certainly do it that way, right? The more you build and broaden your network, the better off you will be. And certainly we have circulated a contact list. We'll be circulating an updated version in the next couple of days because we have a couple of new mentors have come on board. I would encourage each and every one of you to reach out and connect with every single person on that list via LinkedIn, right? Start to build your LinkedIn network, right? And there's 180 names that you can have in your LinkedIn network straight away, right? The more you build and use your network, the much, much more it'll pay you back. Mentors, who'd like to make a comment on that? Richard, you probably have a comment to make on that.
If I get out of mute, then I might be able to, other people will be able to hear the comment as well. No, you're right. If anyone feels that their mentor is too busy, don't, because as Dave said, mentors have volunteered for the job. Well, that's not quite true. They have been volunteered for the job.
True that.
And yes, during the course of the year, there are some times when you are going to need more, if you like, interaction than other times. If you've got a few job applications in, let's say, yes, that's a time for the mentor and the mentee to get together to talk about what you've actually written on your application, updating the CV to make sure it's still relevant, and looking at possible networking contacts and so on. Other times where things are chugging along normally, well, maybe there is less need to interact. But I still think that with my mentee, I want to maintain an interaction on a monthly basis. And we have lunch next Tuesday, wherever you are, Sahil.
Yes, I saw him here a minute ago.
He was here a minute ago. Is he gone? That's no good.
He might have dropped out.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is that we've got to decide where we're going to go. But that's all right. I'm sure we'll find somewhere suitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything else to add, Dave. I mean, I think that other mentors may have other thoughts.
Yeah. One quick thing I'll add before a mentor jumps in is for students particularly, but also early career scientists. I mean, obviously there's a different emphasis on early career scientists, but for students particularly, I know you get busy, but try not to neglect your mentoring, because the return on investment for every hour that you put into your mentoring is massive, right? The median period of unemployment for a recent graduate is 4 months, according to the latest data that I can find, and it's probably worse at present because that was pre-COVID data, right?
Mhm.
If in our previous years we have reduced the period of unemployment to between 0 and 1 month for more than 90% of our mentees, particularly student mentees. If we can reduce your period of unemployment, let's call it by 3 months, from 4 to 1, at a graduate salary of $60,000 a year, that's $15,000 difference to your pocket. Now, if you put in just a couple of hours a month over the course of the year, let's call it 30 hours over a course of a year, that's $500 an hour return on investment. And there is no job that you're going to get anytime early in your career that's going to pay you $500 an hour. So it absolutely is worth your while to prioritize this.
I'd like to make a little comment about networking. And one of the things that have worked very well for me is that, meet people in a social environment sort of initially, seminars or whatever. And in the course of a conversation, you get to know their needs, or you might have interesting references or some article or some connection or another person. And then if you pass these things on, you very soon finding that, favors can be returned to you, and or people that make you aware of certain contacts or events. So helping other people, as you would if you were a mentor, is one of the great ways of networking.
Interestingly, this year we actually have somebody who is both a mentor and a mentee.
Indeed, that would be
a few years into his career, he's helping someone who's beginning, but he's also seeking the help of someone who's a little further along, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. Anna, how did your conversations go with the latest introductions? Okay, Anna may still be muted.
Hi, Dave. Sorry. I thought I'd jump in here.
Yeah.
Oh, don't want to interrupt Anna. She can go first.
Sorry. Yeah. No, my internet's a little spotty, so I might drop out. It's been really good to get introductions from Camaraderie, and follow up on those posts. I've spoken to Sally, but I haven't yet heard back from Rob. So
yeah,
hopefully
I only sent that
those
last night.
continue. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So hopefully that those can keep expanding, and then I can keep reaching out to new people.
Here is my prediction. Robert will grab you with enthusiasm and make every encouragement for you to become a financier.
We'll see how that goes.
He was dead keen. His whole ambit was he wanted more women in STEM in his field. So they do a lot. And I've got to say, one of my colleagues, one of my long-term friends, works with him at NAB, where she is very happy. So, Nicole, you had a question?
It definitely sounds interesting.
Yeah. No, look, there's the point, Anna, and everybody. Anna's been really active in reaching out and asking for introductions, and that is fabulous, right? And we will go out of our way to facilitate. So remember, it's not just your mentor; it's all of us. There's 4,500 RACI members who want to help you if they only know who needs help. So, Nicole, you had a question?
Oh, I was just going to reiterate what you said. But hi, everyone. My name is Nicole, and I'm a mentor a few years out of my PhD. Time is flying by. I just want to reiterate what Dave said in that how important LinkedIn is. I have to date received 2 job offers through LinkedIn that weren't even advertised. And each time they were a promotion, with the first one getting me out of... Hang on,
I'm muting the
getting me. Yeah, the first LinkedIn connection actually got me out of unemployment post PhD, where I was in that rut for 4 months, just waiting on comments. So it's very wise advice that you tell everyone, Dave. Yes, I don't think I have anything more to add. I've lost my train of thought.
Well, I'd like to quickly say, Nicole, thank you so much for coming in as one of our newest mentors, and we're extremely happy to have you on board. So thank you very much. We have finally, it took a long time, but we have finally matched every mentee to a mentor. So we just had a couple of very, very patient mentees who are waiting for the right match. So. Sami, I'm going to pick on you for a moment. Are you able to unmute?
Hi.
You're organising that
Currently
event.
in the lab.
Oh, look at that! You got your glasses on and everything. White lab coat.
That's
Look
why
the part.
well, yeah, that's why I've kind of like turned off. I was kind of hoping it could slip into the background, but yes, I'm in the lab. I was writing my notes and I totally forgot that this was on. And I thought I'd log in and sneak in the back, but I didn't. Hey, everyone.
I want to note to everybody that Sami is organising a get-together, a face-to-face get-together.
Yes. If you're, I think if all the Vic people are here, I have sent out that link. I'm so sorry that I sent it out a little bit late. I've just been going back and forth with RACI to make sure the link was working and it was live. If you want to travel down to Vic and come to La Di Da Bar, please come down and be really good to see you all. And it'll be a good chance to meet all the mentees and the other mentors as well. So
I may have cause to be in Vic in early May. We'll see. So
should be good. Maybe we can organize
first travel in over 12 months.
Yeah, did you recently get the vaccine, or were you?
A few hours ago, and I'm fine.
Congratulations.
So...
I'm just waiting here in the sidelines, waiting for mine.
Yeah, and I was very pleased to get my first one today. I will say, I feel fine. I don't even have a sore spot where they jabbed me. I'm only put out that I didn't get the lollipop.
It's okay. There's quite a few budget cuts going around these days, so I think we've lost a little bit out on the lollipops, but I'm sure they'll be back in a couple of years.
Yeah.
But yes, spruiking the networking event for the Vic people. I'm really sorry about other states. Please do come.
I will be organising something similar in New South Wales in the not too distant future. I've just been frankly, I've been in full lockdown because autoimmune problems meant that I was at risk. So until I had the vaccine, I was staying in hibernation. So, but I will do it in the not too distant future.
Oh, awesome. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera because I'm feeling really self-conscious about being in my lab coat, but I'll still be here. I
think it's great, Sam. You look like a scientist.
Cool.
Right. I'll keep going around. Matt, I feel very guilty. I still owe you that introduction for your wife. It is coming. It's just been slow. So, but how's things going with you and your mentor?
Oh, great. We actually organized to do fortnightly meetups for about half an hour instead of having 1 hour every month. So we do half hour every fortnight. And usually they go for half an hour or longer. Mm-hmm. If we lose track of time, that is.
Yeah.
But no.
What are you chatting about at the moment?
Oh, what did I put down?
While Matt thinks about that question, I'll point out that we are now sending monthly newsletters. Those monthly newsletters also include a training task. So keep an eye out for that training task. Some of them are incredibly valuable. Certainly, I think next month's training task, I'm actually going to get you to apply for a dummy job, and I'm going to give you individual personalized feedback on your application. So I will say I offer it every year. Every year, not more than 30% of people actually do the job, actually do the application, and I sit here stunned and saying, why? Why would you turn down personalized attention? But there you go. So Matt, coming back to you, what are you talking about?
Getting out of your comfort shell. So
good topic.
I hate public speaking. So I guess, and introducing myself to people. So she was actually thinking of me becoming more mentory to give my feedback, since it's been a while since out of uni. And it's like, oh, you do have this like work experience, you know? I'm like, do I? do I really? No, No, it's like going over to talk to other people to, I don't know, get a message across or introduce myself more and network and all the stuff that I have trouble with.
Right.
So I guess getting out of your comfort zone is the next step.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You've got your LinkedIn all set up?
Mostly, I got to update it, but just got to update a little bit. Otherwise, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, remember that the two key things with LinkedIn, it's not so much about your profile, it's about your contacts and about your activity. So, you know, liking, sharing, communicating, but also, you know, building a network of contacts. And if you do those two things, your profile itself, and Nicole was mentioning a moment ago how she's had a couple of job offers through LinkedIn. That comes from your profile. The job offers themselves come, or job opportunities come from your profile, because LinkedIn has a function where you can, as an employer or a recruiter, you can search for skills. But just as a general asset, your activity, sorry, I just got distracted. Your activity and your contacts. I mean, certainly as an employer, the first thing that I do is I jump on someone's LinkedIn profile and I looked at their contacts and what does their contacts say about them? You know, do they interact with people? Is there a diversity of people, etc.?
Well, I actually have a good chain of events that happened when Anna participated. I think the first mentoring program of the year, Anna was advertising something at her job, saying that there were some positions open. So I sent her a PM and a LinkedIn inquiring about the position, and she was luckily a mentor who had a mentee that I knew, and so it's like, oh, that was another conversation that was like, oh, you talk to my mentee and he knows you type thing. I'm like, oh yeah, he's a old uni mate. So then that went into, I guess, another meeting with her over lunch, I think at one time. So we actually met up and had some lunch with her. She brought her son and I brought my wife, and my wife distracted the son. It was pretty useful. Whilst I chatted with Anna, and we got to a real good conversation, and now she's helping me with pursuing further stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. I mean, you know, I've said this story many times, but a couple of years ago, I took a mentee with me to an event, to a RACI event. I walked around that event, introduced him to a bunch of people, and said, you know, this is my mentee. He's a fine young man. He's going to be graduating in 3 months' time, and we'll be looking for work. If you hear of anything, let me know. Out of 8 introductions, we had 10 jobs that were forwarded through to us. And even though he didn't actually get any of those 10, he didn't apply for all 10. You know, some of them weren't right for him or whatnot. But the one key one that he did apply for, although he didn't get the job, it led him directly to the job that he did get.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
You know,
oh, it's great to hear.
Make all the difference. Now, of course, if you guys, I mean, events are starting to happen again. Face-to-face is starting to happen again. When you go to an event, you don't have to feel alone. You don't have to feel nervous. You let any one of us know, your mentee, us, the organizers, that you're coming and you're new to this event. You don't necessarily know anyone. We will make sure that there's someone there who will greet you, welcome you, make sure that you're introduced to people, and make sure that you're included in conversations. You don't have to do it all yourself, right? Because we all remember how incredibly nerve-wracking that is, right? I still go through it from time to time. You know, I still end up going to events where I don't know anybody in the room, and I know what it feels like, right? Sami's made the point about COVID changing the world, and you're absolutely right. There are some real positives coming out of COVID, not least of which camaraderie. We run it the first Thursday of every month. And it's bringing us from all around Australia together to network with each other. I mean, that's how Richard and I met. That's how Richard became a mentor in the program. He started turning up at Camaraderie and we got to chatting. So I'll take it from a different perspective. Heidi, I'm gonna lean on you for a minute. If you can turn yourself back on. Heidi, you are one of our longest standing mentors. You've been doing it for 5 years now?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly 5 years. What advice do you give to both mentees and mentors about making the most of it?
Oh, well, I think to reiterate some of the points you've already raised, Dave, it is important to have regular contact for mentees to reach out to their mentors on a regular basis. And as you said, although people do get busy at times, the mentors involved in the program are involved because we want to help. And so nobody is ever going to be too busy all the time to help. So yeah, definitely reach out to your mentor. I would say that the monthly activities that are now part of the program, particularly applying for the mock job application that you mentioned is a really great exercise to do. And particularly if your meetings with your mentor, maybe you're struggling to think of things to talk about, the monthly tasks are another prompt that you could use and that you could get help with. So it can work in a number of ways. I guess they would be my main points. I think as it becomes more job focused, it's obviously be focused more on working through cover letters and resumes. But it's also nice to talk about, I guess, broader career objectives. And one big advantage, I think, of the mentoring program is that you can reach out to people who are in fields related to chemistry and science, but who maybe have taken a different path to some of the more traditional paths. And so it can give insight into what other career opportunities are out there. Because I think one of the most challenging questions that I had a few years ago now is, well, but I don't know what is there? What is there? What can I do? And the answer to that is huge. It's such a broad answer. And one of the best ways to find those answers is to reach out to people who are working in those careers and living that.
That's a very, very valid point, Heidi. Look, easily half of the people in the mentoring program, and it'll be true this year as it is every other year, easily half of people have no freaking idea what they want to do after they finish their studies, right? Anybody want to put their hand up and say, that's me? Right? Yeah, you're not alone, right? And partly it comes down to not being aware of what your options are. So for instance, this month we're running a webinar, which is the first of a two-part series on what are your options. Okay. This month's webinar is we talk about the different sectors that you can work in, government, in industry or academia. And the next one, we're going to talk about the different job types. We also have a webinar later this year, which is all about careers outside the lab, right? It's easy to say, I'm a chemist, I want to go into an R&D job, or I'm a chemist and I want to go and work in an analytical job. That's a natural and obvious fit. But there's a lot of people out there who say, well, I like it, it's fine, but actually, you know, it's not my passion. I'd like to do something else. And the beautiful thing is there is a wealth of options out there, even for graduates. So we hope to inform you a little bit, but there is nothing better than networking, right? Talking to lots of different people about what do they do and what do they love about what they do, or even what do they hate about what they do. Because sooner or later you will talk to somebody, they will inspire you and you will say, that sounds awesome, I want to do that. And I'm going to pick on Anna again for a moment, because Anna has been really outstanding this year at saying, I want to investigate my options outside the lab, and has asked for multiple introductions to people outside the lab, which we've been facilitating. so that she can investigate what it is that she wants to do, and once she found what she wants to do, how she can get it. Okay, I will say I've run this program for, I think this is year 8 now. I've never had a young person fail to achieve their objective when they formulated an objective, right? Every single person who has decided I want that has achieved it. And I think that's commendable. So the other point, of course, that I would make is, remember everybody, every single event that we do is recorded. So there's a lot of accumulated wisdom being built up. I think we've got 35 videos now. So there's, you want to talk about LinkedIn, there's 2 videos on LinkedIn. You want to talk about networking, I think there's 3 on networking. There's something that you can go back and review from everything that we've done.
Oh.
Hey, Andrew, got a point to say?
Sorry, my dog was just harassing me.
Pardon me. Oh yeah, so we're also, the one that we're running in 2 weeks' time, as Afsha has pointed out to me, is we're doing an interesting one about food science. So Gabby was mentioning that she's associated with CTAC. 7 of our mentees this year are associated with CTAC, which is absolutely fabulous because environment and chemistry go hand in hand. But we also are building an association with the AIFST, the Australian Institute for Food Science and Technology. I know that's an area that Bethika, as example, is interested in. And so our webinar in a couple of weeks' time will be about opportunities in the food industry.
Wow, that's good for me.
Yeah, absolutely, Bethika. How are you faring, Bethika?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. How's your job search coming?
Yeah, that's fine.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and of course, that's a key point, right? We are, okay, let me quickly introduce Afsha, who's in my top left, but may not be in your top left. Afsha is one of the, and Pam is also here somewhere too. There's Pam. Afsha, Pam, Yvonne, and I form the committee that runs this careers program. Running an event every week has turned out to be quite challenging. And we've struggled a little to get on top of that challenging calendar. I think over the last couple of weeks, we've finally crawled pretty close to the crest of that hill. And so our aim is to have everything organised a minimum of 6 weeks in advance, preferably 8. So we will be advertising things more in advance than we have been. I apologise that it's been a little bit chaotic to date. Nothing I can say except mea culpa. But we're always open to ideas. I don't want to just run the same topics again and again. I know there's some topics that we just have to run because they're relevant every year. But if there's something that you want to know about, something you want to hear about, for goodness sake, tell us. I mean, for instance, a couple of weeks ago, and I messed up the recording, so we don't actually have, it's the one event that we've run this year that we don't have a recording. But we did one where we touched on mental health, and it was bloody fascinating. The stuff that came out of that event, for the 25, 30 people who came to that event, it was really interesting. And I'll flag that at the end of this month, on the 29th, the Victorian ECCG, is Early Careers Chemist Group, is running a more mental health focused event that I think will be absolutely fascinating. I'm extremely looking forward to it. So, and who knew that mental health would be that interesting? You know, I thought my crazy was just part of what I did, but yeah, so, you know, I'm going to be really looking forward to that event. There's always so much that we can gain with your feedback, right? And I guess this is something, I know I'm doing a lot of the talking here, but remember, your feedback is incredibly valuable to us in the program. You tell us what you're interested in. You tell us what works for you and what doesn't work, right? If we make a mistake, hopefully you tell us nicely. Somebody jumped on the poor New South Wales ECCG last week because they organised an event and they didn't consider gender diversity in their event, and they got stomped for it. which I thought was a bit unfair. You know, they're just doing their best. But you know, so if you tell us nicely, it's better. But always tell us. Now I'm going to keep going around. Rebecca, you've got your video on, so I'm going to pick on you. How's it going for you?
It's pretty good. I had another meeting with my mentor yesterday, which went pretty well, but I think I'm also falling into the trap of feeling like I don't know what to talk about. Like we've talked about all of the like main sort of the background of her career and some of the insights that she's gained from her career. But yeah, I think because I'm not currently, I'm a little bit out from actually looking for a job very directly, because I'm graduating at the end of, well, I'm submitting my thesis at the end of the year, hopefully. It's sort of, I don't kind of have the urgency to sort of get applications out right now. So I think we're kind of stalling with the sort of what to talk about.
So a couple of suggestions then.
Yeah.
Are you coming to events? Are you watching some of the webinars and things like that?
Yeah, no, I am.
Then
Yeah.
talking about some of the things that you found interesting or controversial from those.
Okay, I like that controversy. Interesting.
You know, discussing things. You know, I'll give you an example of a controversial topic. I wrote a blog post a while ago about tattoos. And my basic point that I was trying to get across is a tattoo is a public statement that you are making to the world, okay? It might be something that's important to you, but the point is, it doesn't matter what public statement you make to the world, you have no control, regardless of what you intend by the statement, you have no control about how that statement is taken, interpreted, or inferred from, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not picking on you here, Rebecca, but the point is that if you choose to get a tattoo in a visible location, then you are making a statement to the world. You don't get to decide how somebody judges that tattoo.
Right. Yeah.
And so what I talked about is think about the statements that you're making to the world. Is the receipt of that the same as your intent? Right? You could say it equally about, I don't know, making political statements on social media, right? You might feel very passionately about a topic, but are you creating something that risks offending your potential employer, okay? Or not even your potential employer, but what is the risk that you're creating to your potential employer? Let's talk about a social media post as example, okay? There was a case 2-3 years ago of a woman who made a mocking post about someone that she saw in an airplane transit lounge. She boarded her plane. She landed 6 hours later. When she landed, her tweet had taken off. It had been interpreted as racist. People had bombarded her employer with complaints, and her employer had sacked her.
Yeah, well, there's a few stories like that.
Right? The point is, as an employer, it doesn't necessarily matter whether I agree with you or disagree with you. What risk are you to my business?
Yeah.
With your visible tattoo, it doesn't matter what my view of tattoos is. I might love tattoos. How is it going to be viewed by my customers? How is it going to affect my business? Because what effect it has on my business affects my ability to employ you. Now, this is a controversial topic. And there's plenty of young people who would say, my body, my choice. To which I would say, my money, my choice, who I employ.
Yeah, no, it's I think it goes both ways.
Yeah.
And there are anti-discrimination laws to go against some of that. But yeah, I do get your point. It's definitely...
I mean, anti-discrimination laws apply to a cultural tattoo. You know, a Maori is allowed to have a visible face marking and is not allowed to be discriminated against. A bikie is not protected by the, you know. So the point is, some of these things that come out of these events, you can discuss, and they can become very interesting topics of conversation.
Yeah.
The other one key thing is building your star stories. Are people familiar with what a star story is?
Yeah.
Okay. Building a small library of powerful star stories is incredibly valuable. And that's something that you can absolutely workshop with your mentor, even before you're ready to apply for a job. Because having a half a dozen star stories in your arsenal is incredibly powerful. The star stories fall into 3 basic categories. When have you excelled in the workplace? How have you dealt with conflict in the workplace? And how have you dealt with challenge in the workplace? The actual questions vary, but those are the 3 primary categories. And you want to have a couple of star stories that fall into each of those categories. And you want to have workshopped them, not for just what you're going to say, but what's the subtext. Okay.
Yeah,
so that's, you know, if you're having trouble talking about stuff, that's a great way to talk about. Okay. The other thing is always to explore, look, whether you're unsure about what you want to do or whether you're absolutely certain of what you want to do, they're 2 sides of the same coin. Exploring and discussing, is what I want or what I don't know what I want actually what I want? Okay, so for instance, in one of our recent talks, and I don't know if it was a recorded one, Tom Frith talked about how all he wanted was to get a management consulting position after his science music degree. He worked bloody hard and he got one, got into it and said, actually, you know what? It's not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And he changed streams to something that he enjoys a lot better. But he was someone who was absolutely laser focused on his target.
It's hard to know until you try it. And I think that's the problem with a lot of us currently coming up against.
It's, you know how you find out before you try it? You talk to people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point. And it's part of why also building the network is really important as well, because then we can talk to people from a whole lot of different fields. So
Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks very much, Rebecca.
No worries.
I wanted to say something about the thing when you say you need to talk to the people about the jobs, what they're doing. I believe like most of the people, what they're working, and they're quite passionate about what they do. And they quite enjoy what they do. They have been doing for a while. I don't know for how many years. And when they talk about it, the way they talk about it, it's always sound intriguing. Like, especially to me, like, I feel like, yeah, that's so cool. I would like to do that. I would enjoy it. And then until you start doing it, then you actually start feeling it. That's not what I was looking into. I don't know, it's just me or like if most of the students feel like this. But yeah, that's the like other side of it. Even initially, I was quite sure like what I wanted to get into. Then I started talking to people, and now I feel like everything I listened to, like half of the thing I found interesting, and I feel like I would enjoy them. And I'm not sure if I get into one, I would actually enjoy it.
Yeah, so, look, you're absolutely right. I mean, hell, at one point I was a commodities research consultant for 6 months. Sounded like a fabulous job on paper, suited me to a T on paper. I was bored out of my tiny little mind. Right? So sometimes you just don't know. But the other thing I would say about this is there's no such thing as wasted experience, even going into the wrong job. I mean, heck, here am I running a mentoring program because 20 years ago, I spent some time as a recruitment consultant, found that it wasn't the job for me, but learned a valuable set of skills that I share with people for the rest of my career. Right? So you just never know. I mean, Keely's here tonight. Keely, you're a recruitment consultant and much better at it than I ever was.
Oh, I'm sure that's not true, Dave. Good to see you.
Good to see you also. So, you know, I mean, what do you have to say to Sahil about finding out the good and the bad?
Oh, I think everybody's experience is different. That's why there are so many jobs out there and so many people doing different types of work. I think, you know, you don't know what you want to do until you get into it, really. You know, talking about being a recruitment consultant, I'll tell you, when I did my master's in chemistry, I never in a million years thought I would become a recruitment consultant. But I absolutely love what I do. And it was the perfect opportunity for me when it came across, you know, my path. So, and 6 years later, I couldn't think of anything that I'd rather do. So I think it's just a little bit different for everyone. And you need to try a whole heap of different things until you find the right fit. And I think as you know, recent graduates, you're in a good position to try different, you know, short-term assignments, different jobs, just to get a feel for what you do and don't like, and then keep heading towards the things that you do enjoy doing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Kelly. And
I'd like to make a comment, if you wouldn't mind, David, on that topic, because we're very much focused on to the sorts of things we do. If this is not suitable for us, try something else. But when I look at employment and my own career, I find that it's very much about fitting into a social environment, and it's your own social skills that you carry into that environment, as well as the social nature of that environment and the skills of the people there as well. That is a very important aspect to our experiencing of whatever we're doing. And so that's a factor which is not immediately controllable or analyzable, and sometimes it's a sort of experiential sort of thing. And also, as you gain in maturity as well, you can read the social environment more accurately than earlier times in our career. There's just sort of another dimension to the topic at the moment, that's all.
You're absolutely right, Graham. And I think there's a temptation for young people to think that there is a right job for them or a right career path for them. It's just not like that. The whatever plan you have for your career right now, I guarantee you that's not what's going to actually happen, right? You're going to find there's slips and twists and stuff changes. It's not a race. It's not a competition with your other contemporaries. You just get on and you do the stuff that you do, and as Graham said, you take the happiness with you. There's not a path. There's not a job that's going to make you happy. There's the you that makes you happy, and a job that you do along the way. I think the biggest piece of advice is be open to everything. Say yes to everything. You know, and you just can't go wrong by being open to experience.
Yeah, fear is a great factor. Fear of change, and fear of experiencing something different that you are not really comfortable. So many people are frozen into their positions and would have wonderful skills and could do wonderful things as well. But having the skill to be a little bit, to explore, to be a little bit bold, fortunately seems to be adopted more to the younger generation now, you know, as the younger generation are willing to try more than in my day. So that's good to see.
Yeah, and be willing to fail. Okay, you know, the consequences of failure at your age are trivial.
Yeah.
You know, I got a mortgage. It's slightly different now.
Hey, Dave, I'm just going to chime in there and like probably wind all the way back to Rebecca's question. I did have a couple of comments. So I'm in the exact same position as Rebecca. I'm also in my final year of my PhD, and I'm planning on submitting my thesis at the same time as her, so at the end of the year. Now, my mentor is Yvonne, which is awesome because she's got enough shit on her plate already. But in my perspective, a lot of the things that Yvonne and I have talked about actually devolved around my PhD. So she'd ask me about how things are going with my supervisor, how my PhD is tracking, because Yvonne herself has done a PhD, so she knows the final year stresses, but she can ask the question because she's been through it. She can ask what it's like to be in that position. And we often touching on the same points that you talked about, Dave, about mental health in the workplace, and a lot of the controversial topics like just women in STEM. We've had a lot of discussions about that, about women in STEM, about the pipeline, about the leaky pipeline, about industry versus academia, because I personally have like been straddling that fence of industry versus academia for a long time. And being in my position as a PhD, it's a little bit different in the mentoring program to someone who is an undergraduate, because I'm sitting here at uni. This is my 9th year at uni. So like a lot of other PhDs, we've been through the undergraduate process, but now we've also done a bit of teaching. So we've taught undergrads. So the types of topics that come to a head are like, even this is a topic I might be able to ask everyone here, and Dave including, like, as a PhD, what sort of opportunities are out there? Because frankly, a lot of the opportunities that are advertised for us are actually in academia. Like, a lot of the time it feels like postdocs are our only option. Now, having Yvonne as my mentor, she's gotten out of the system. Like, she's now working with plastics. So anybody that's like taken an alternative pathway, I've kind of often find myself engaging with them. What was your pathway? How'd you get them? Was it happenstance? Like, what is that about? Because getting a postdoc seems to be it's the new norm, but anything other than a postdoc is a little bit like, what? So those are topics that I've talked to her about. And it's just like also my personal question to Dave and any mentors, as a PhD, do we apply for grad programs? Or alternative perspective, is a PhD a grad program in itself? Because we're sitting here on the job training. We've got teaching experience as well, as we teach undergraduates, and we've got soft skills that we're developing as we are presenting all our milestones. Does that count as a grad program? Okay. End spiel.
Multiple points. Just firstly, David and Isaac, I've created a small breakout room for you guys to go off and have a chat. So all you have to do is just click the join function, and you guys can go off and have a quick breakout chat. Look, I'm sure Keely will have something to say about this, but the first thing is, I don't think anybody in the mentoring program should be waiting for advertised positions. Okay, that's for chumps. You guys, particularly your PhDs, you are researchers. You're experienced, self-motivated researchers. You research the opportunities you want, and you approach them directly through your network and through our assistants, and go and create the jobs you want, not wait for them to be advertised. Okay, that's my first and biggest point, right? You do not have to become a postdoc, right? Only 1 in 7 PhDs goes on to have an academic career. The other 6 in 7 have to find a job in the real world. I've got to stop editorializing. But the point is, there are lots of wonderful jobs out there for PhDs, right? But don't wait for them to be advertised, right? So that's point number 1. Keely, do you want to add anything while I think? I kind of remember what Sami's second point was now, because I've gone blank. Keely, do you want to add something there? Oh, grad programs. Yeah, I'll talk about grad programs in a minute.
No, I was just going to suggest, Sami, feel free to get in contact with me and we can have a chat offline, because I've got lots of ideas, but it's really down to each individual and what you see yourself doing outside of your PhD. So I'll drop my email into the chat box and you can get in contact.
Yeah. And just quickly, David, you should be seeing an invitation to that breakout room. I keep saying Isaac goes off to the room, but you're not joining him. So you have to click the join meeting. There you go. There we go. Isaac, you can go off now. David's gone there.
Thanks, David.
Yeah. Look, I mean, yeah, the point is, PhDs are individual. PhD candidates are individual. There's no, but that's what we're here for. We're here to work out an individual tailored solution that fits you. You got 4,500 people who want to help you, right? So don't sweat it, but sure as hell don't wait for the advertised jobs, right? Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with you, Nicole. There's a wealth of opportunity out there. And if you want to go and be a researcher, you can be a researcher, but you don't have to be a researcher in academia, right? I built an entire R&D career in the industrial sphere. I did a PhD every year instead of once every 3 years. The only difference was I didn't publish, right? In terms of grad programs, that's a really interesting one. I have never loved, personally, I've never loved graduate programs. I think that they have the risk of being exploitative. And the biggest thing I hear from grad programs is burnout. However, I have been challenged on that opinion of late, and I wonder if I have been mistaken in that opinion. I think that grad programs deserve a second look. But having said that, as a PhD, I mean, you know, NAB, Robert Waugh last week said, or 2 weeks ago, whenever we spoke, he said, you come to me with a PhD, I'm not going to stick you in the grad program. You're already above and beyond that. I'm going to put you in a real job straight away. Right? So, you know, I think one of your things you do is you use your network, you talk to the people who run the grad program and say, is this grad program for me, or is there an alternative path for someone with a PhD? As long as you don't come at it with arrogance, as long as you don't come at it with, I have a PhD and therefore I deserve better, that's the wrong message. You'll be fine. Keely, do you have anything to add there about grad programs?
Sorry, I was busy typing in the chat box. Sorry about that. I didn't catch what you were asking there, Dave. If you want to
just outside, I mean, grad programs and PhDs. You know, is it a good fit, or how should PhDs look at grad programs?
Oh, I think what Sammy was saying was really, really valid. You know, you spend so much time actually mentoring others and teaching as part of your PhD that you are kind of more advanced than you would be coming out of a bachelor. And not kind of, you definitely are. I think that, you know, a graduate position might be the right track. You know, grad positions, I love graduate programs because a lot of times they're structured so you can try a lot of different things over the course of a period of time. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for anyone to get exposure to a lot of different areas. I think it goes back to what I think Sahil was saying earlier, that, you know, I don't know what I want to do. Well, a graduate program is such, in most cases, the way it's structured, you kind of get exposures to every aspect of the business.
Yeah, very well said.
And what it's like. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think what Sammy was saying, you're right. You basically have already one graduate program, but you can do more.
Yeah. Now, Keely, there was a point that just came out of that. Darn it, I've just gone blank. Age is a terrible thing. PhDs have to show a little bit of balance, right? There is a risk that if you go from your PhD straight into a postdoc, that you may be creating a hurdle for yourself to get back out of academia, right? Because unfortunately in the Australian market, academia and industry are not well meshed. So I would suggest to you that if you don't actually want to go down the academic route, I would be cautious about leaping into a postdoc. Just because they're advertised doesn't mean it's the right path for you. I think that what I would do instead is I would talk to your mentor, I'd talk to people like Keely, I would plan my next step rather than just grasping my next opportunity.
Dave, can I jump in there?
Yeah.
Nicole here. When I was fresh out of my PhD, I was actually considered a flight risk because I thought I was merely filling in the gap between a PhD and a postdoc. So I really had to sell myself, and I never portrayed myself as a student. Those 4 years dedicated to my PhD gave me more than the student experience. It was work experience that could contribute to how I could help them in my career path I'm in now. So I just want to let everyone know that you really have to be your own advocate and sell yourself that there is more to the PhD than just the lab.
Completely.
Totally agree. And what I had been typing in the chat box was just to reiterate what Nicole had actually said earlier around the networking and the LinkedIn piece. I think as a PhD, more than anyone, you need to do more of those activities because you really need to demonstrate to industry that you are the right fit to go into industry. But we have had some wonderful successes the last couple of years with our Future Scientist Award that we run. It's really opening some eyes to industry partners around what the PhD student can bring to their organizations. And we've actually seen those PhD students transition in. But outside of that program, I find it extremely difficult to sell to clients around the PhD candidate unless they have that opportunity to meet with them, see them in action, hear their motivations and everything else. So more so than ever, what Nicole said around the LinkedIn and the networking, it's just really, really important when you're doing a PhD.
I couldn't agree more. And even when during my PhD, I actually made my own business cards through Officeworks. They were very crude, very not very nice looking, very basic. But at least they remembered my name and I could just get them on LinkedIn. So I had someone to refer back to. And if they couldn't help me, that's okay. They may be able to pass me on to someone else. And I actually just recently learned that you can open your LinkedIn to recruiters to come in and see that you're open for work. I didn't know that until very recently.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, in the last couple of years, LinkedIn has become a central location for that recruitment process, where before it was not. It was more a business social media. Now it is much more a recruitment tool. So absolutely worth focusing more on your LinkedIn profile as well. Okay, now we're coming up to 7:30. Does anybody have any other questions? Anything that we can do to be of help or support to your mentoring? By the way, Sami, I love the energy saver dance. For a moment there, I thought there was a bee or something in your office, but I
forgot I was on camera. I forgot I was on camera. And I just got a bunch of personal messages being, I love the spider dance. I'm like, oh my God. No.
That was a good one. There we go. Yeah, Gabby, go for it.
So I thought that just kind of came up through this whole conversation, which I found really valuable. So thanks everyone for your input, was when you move into a job that's completely outside of your experience, how do you know when it's appropriate to set up boundaries? So how do you, when you move into a position, know? So when Dave, you mentioned burnout and grad programs, how do you set up a boundary for yourself and your employer that's appropriate and it kind of won't damage or give you a risk towards being employable in the future, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Look, partly it comes down to selecting the right job in the first place. Okay, you know that if you go into a large company grad program, they're going to give you great experience, but they're going to work you hard, right? And so you go into it with your eyes open, right? I think that your opportunities to set boundaries are limited in your early career, right? I mean, certainly it'll seem insane these days, but I remember when mobile phones first came to exist, because they didn't exist when I first started my career. They literally didn't exist when I started my career. I fiercely objected to my company giving me a mobile phone because I did not want to be contactable after hours, right? But I wasn't given a choice. So yeah. Get it.
Can I contribute as well? Sorry, it sounds like I love the sound of my own voice. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. I know you don't want to hear that, because as a PhD, I literally worked my ass off until I burnt myself out into the ground, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. And I thought, I'll get into a full-time job and a full-time living, get a mortgage, tick, tick, tick. I am still working my ass off. 12, 14-hour days, because I'm still in that stage of proving myself and in the career progression stage, but it's all experience under my belt. And I feel like as I'm going along, I'm building efficiency And now if I go to the next employment down the line, I will tell them in the job interview, you know, it's definitely a lot easier to get a job when you already have a job. I will tell them, you know, I'm prepared to work 10-hour days and be contactable after hours, but I'm not prepared to be in front of the computer 24/7. So setting those boundaries at job interviews. But admittedly, initially, you do have to be very willing to commit your time and your energy.
Yeah. But can I put words in your mouth, Nicole, and say you wouldn't stick with a job that has you working 12+ hour days, except that you were enjoying the job and passionate about it. It might be hard, but it's still something that you want to do.
Most of the time, yes.
True that. Every job has its days. And that's true when you're 50 as when you're 25. So. Richard, you've been fairly quiet. What would you like to add to the discussion?
No, I mean, I left after I'd finished my doctorate. I decided that I did not want to enter the academic postdoc and all the rest of it, and went into industry doing something completely different, commercial development and planning and things like that, and then got into running a chemical engineering department, and then got into managing a factory, a couple of factories, got into marketing, and at the end of my career got back to looking at developing new technologies. So a bit of a full circle, the same employer, but different roles every few years. And that, I think, worked quite well for me. I don't know if it's going to work well for others, but don't think if you've done a PhD that you have to stay being an academic. There are lots of PhDs who are academics. If you go out of academia, maybe there are fewer competitors who have a similar sort of background to you, and it might be easier to make progress outside academia. But you know, you've just got to look, and I think that what was said before, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. What might look to be a cushy job or a well-paid job or whatever has got to have disadvantages as well. And what we said earlier, talk to people. If you think you're going to become, and pick something like a patent attorney, or go and talk to some patent attorneys to find out whether they're, you know, just whether it would appeal to you or not. You want to go into being a management consultant, well, go and talk to management consultants if you know someone, and through the networking and mentoring program, hopefully there are some people there that you could talk to and see just what it is like, making recommendations and then stepping away and never actually implementing anything. That's my perception of management consultants, and so on. So, you know, I think that I agree with generally what's been said. Yeah.
You know, it's funny, Richard, you say talk to someone. I mentioned earlier in this piece that I spent 6 months as a commodities consultant. I could have known that I would hate the job with one question. If I'd only been intelligent enough to ask the question, where does the data come from?
Right.
If I'd just asked that one question, I'd have known. Because the answer is the data is very hard to come by, and so they spend a lot of their time making crap up, and that was never going to suit me. You know, if the job was crunching existing data to find new insights, I would have excelled at it. But making crap up was not my forte.
Okay, well.
No. Justin.
Dave, yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for your insight. I've sort of a little story. Something sort of interesting, exciting happened really just today. There's a guy I studied my last year of physics, my physics degree in South Korea, and I was rooming with a guy there for my first semester, and he went off to start a company in the UK, a hemp distribution company, which has become pretty successful. And he has a contact in Perth who's working on hemp plastics and hemp batteries and stuff like that. And he just got me in contact with him. We had a chat today over Zoom, and he's like super passionate. He wants to create a hemp car, wants to build a hemp car and make hemp sort of like the material of the future. And he was really really interested in me, and he's invited me along to a meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. to talk with him and his engineers. And yeah, my friend, because he's about my age, he's young as well, but yeah, we've been talking about what insight we could give to this sort of budding sort of company. It's called Hemp Engineering and Biomass Engineering.
Outstanding.
And yeah, so he seemed like he wanted me on his team right away, which is quite strange. I'm like, I've still got to finish my PhD. but I was wondering if there's any sort of advice you'd give to someone in my position. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if I can't really jump out of my PhD and just jump straight into some.
No, but you can take it on part-time in your spare time. You can develop your business skills a little bit. If you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to go into a startup, it's not enough to be a scientist. Be a scientist and a business person. Learn to read a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet. Learn to understand the basic principles of marketing, things like this. You know, you can pick up a first-year accounting textbook and a first-year economics textbook and a first-year marketing textbook, read the first half of all three of them and then throw them away just to get familiar with the basics of the terminology. Your university almost certainly has an entrepreneurship center where you could do small courses on entrepreneurship, things that would be incredibly valuable if you're looking to get into a startup. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots of things you can do. WA government almost certainly runs entrepreneurship courses and offers entrepreneurship mentoring for businesses. Every state has business development centers like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, been thinking about what sort of advice I can give them, and if they say like, all right, we want you on our team, I'm like, all right, I kind of need to think about this a bit more. Like, where should my boundaries be, and how should I be selling myself? And so I don't know if this is where I want to be in. Like, it looks exciting and everything, but I don't know if it's actually going to take off as a business, but it could be good experience at least, or I'm not sure at the moment.
Now, my business is, my consulting business is all about the R&D tax incentive. I deal with entrepreneurs every day of the week. Plus, of course, I've started several companies of my own. You know, maybe at some point we sit and we have a bit of a chat about what does it take to be an entrepreneur? What are the pitfalls? What are the things to watch for? Absolutely. Out of curiosity, is that a topic that people would find interesting as a webinar topic? I'm seeing some nods. Oh yeah, there we go. Pam has reminded me that we actually have an entrepreneurship webinar already planned for May. Thanks, Pam. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, so we already had planned to do a webinar in May. It'll be the third Thursday in May, and that is entrepreneurship and financial literacy. Right? So you know, it should be a topic that's, I mean, look, Justin, it's incredibly exciting. Getting involved in a startup is incredibly exciting. Somebody was talking about that before. Was it you, Rebecca? No. Somebody else is working for a startup right now. Oh, Tiffany. Tiffany is working for a startup right now. And I'm sure Tiffany maybe we should actually bring you into that webinar for your own insights as an early career scientist working for a startup. But interestingly, I mean, just today, I had the same. One of my clients has opened discussions with me about coming on as a part-time CFO for her startup. So, you know, it can happen all the way through your career, these unexpected, exciting conversations. So.
Yes, but it's nice to be a PhD. It is a wonderful tag to have. And once you have your PhD, you have that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it's a goal, a wonderful goal. And not many people have achieved that. Sometimes, as my wife was saying, well, you know, you could do this, or you could do that. Do you really need a PhD? And I said to her, well, that's not why you do a PhD. You know, you do a PhD because you're a scientist and you're engrossed and you want to achieve that. And it's a lovely form of recognition. One of the things that I found that with all kinds of qualifications and even very advanced qualifications is that sometimes you need to add something else to it. And as you were talking about reading, your first year books in marketing and finance and reading the spreadsheet, but you can do a course in business. And in my own son-in-law, who is very senior in a major oil exploration company, so much so that his vice president, who runs huge portions of the company, is totally responsible for them. He had a fine qualification, wasn't a PhD, but he was an excellent, outstanding student. And he's always sort of ways of distinguishing himself. But in particular, when he studied his management course, it was that which, and together with his track record, which really marked him out for a man for the top. That's if you're going for the top. But if you have your PhD and you're forever just focused into what your project was, or somehow or other it limited you, but it would be a shame. But PhD is a wonderful qualification, and it's one that it's like a treasure. You should go for it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Don't walk away when you're that close to the goal. The other thing that's worth noting, PhD investors look on PhDs quite well, particularly if you're seeking US investment. So being a PhD as part of the management team of a startup can very much assist the startup.
Put something else to with it, and you have a wonderful lot of power, perhaps, together with lovely personality and a willing to work hard.
I couldn't agree more. Don't let anyone undermine your PhD. I have heard along the way that the PhD is the new master's. Everyone's got it. What's going to differentiate you? Not everyone's got a PhD. Yeah, that's bollocks. I know don't treat your PhD as you're better than other people, and I know no one here would ever do that. You have to be prepared to start in the graduate program or in the assistant role. And I haven't needed a PhD for the jobs I have now, but it has helped me address those interview questions, such as the STAR approach, where I've actually referred back to my PhD, where I've gained leadership experience, and I showed time management and following projects through to the end, achieving milestones, etc. All those keywords along there. So although I have colleagues that don't have a PhD, I think down the track it's going to differentiate me.
Yeah, over the course of your career, it'll help. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've gone much longer than we ever intended to. I'm glad it's been a very informal event, but hopefully it's been useful and informative. Does anybody have any last questions before we wrap up?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say, Dave, this has actually been really useful. If we could do another one of these in like a month or 2 months' time or whatever, I think that would be really good, because we don't get much of a chance to just kind of chat in a group setting very much in the program at the moment. Like the breakout rooms and everything and camaraderie are really good to get to know people really closely, but I feel like it is quite useful to have that wider insight as well, which is, I really enjoyed it.
No problem.
I agree. I thought it was really useful, and I do have to apologize to any of the undergrads that were here. I think that near the end, the conversation did steer a lot towards PhD related topics, and that might have been my fault. Sorry.
No, it's all part of the game. I mean, plenty of the undergrads are going to be considering their whether they're going to do a PhD too. So, I mean, I love the fact that we talk so much about PhDs, and yet I left university like I'd been shot from a cannon. There was just no chance I was sticking around for a PhD, and never regretted it. Whereas Heidi, who's been very quiet here, did the same degree as me a couple of years later, and then went on to do her PhD. So, and we end up, I don't know whether everybody knows this, but Heidi actually works with me, as does Afsha. So that's actually how she became a mentor in the program. I tapped her on the shoulder early and said, how about you help out? So it just goes to show we started in similar places, we did slightly different paths, and ended up in the same place. All right, well, thank you very much, everybody. we'll figure out our calendar. So Pam's just made a couple of suggestions. We do have a Careers Hack event scheduled for the 13th of May, but I kind of like keeping Careers Hack because there is always active job seekers, and I think that it's a useful event. We'll figure it out. There's any month that has 31 days tends to have more opportunities for extra events. So thank you, everybody. I'm delighted that so many people turned up. I'm astounded that so many people turned up. I thought it was going to be me and one or two others, particularly with the late notice, but I'm glad that it's been such a great event. I will upload this video, and hopefully other people also benefit from it as well.